Welcome back to the basics of game hacking. Today we will enter into our first game and manipulate our first values. We'll start by opening up our game and our cheat engine. Today we are working in Palworld's single player mode. I chose Palworld to start because there's plenty of things to manipulate and it has no anti-cheat at this time that can cause us any bans. Before we get started with data manipulation, we need to first come to understand what we are working with. At the top left, you will be presented with a flashing button. This button allows you to attach Cheat Engine to an application or process. We'll use the primary executable for the game. In this case, it's pal.exe. And before we do anything, we need to make sure the debugger we have enabled is set to VEH. This debugger will offer us the best results and less problems moving forward. Navigate to the top menu, click Edit, go to Settings, and in the Debugger Options tab on the left, you can select VEH Debugger as your debug method. Hit OK and you're ready to start. With pal.exe selected as the target process, we can start our single player game. I'll start by skipping past the character creation and intro and get things moving along. Once in the game, we need to get some initial resources. Some sticks and stones will work. I'll need about 4 of each stick and stone for a quick and easy result. This last stone should do it. Okay, great. I have 4 of each now to work with. Let's start off with something simple, like item duplication. Items in your inventory will appear with simple values. These simple values are known as integers. Things like timers will often be associated with floating point values, which are more complex values. We'll be working with integers to start. On the right of Cheat Engine's menu, we have the Value tab. This is what we will use to determine what values we'll be searching for. We know it's a simple value, and it can increase over 256,000 if we let it. This must mean it's a 4 byte or an 8 byte value. It's likely not such a large enough number that it needs more than 4 bytes, so we'll select the 4 byte to start. If this turns out to be wrong, we'll change to 8 byte and search again. We'll set the scan type to be an exact value. You'll notice we have many options here which we can sort by during the scan process. We'll enter 4 in the value of the search and hit scan. We are now given a scan result of 1.4 million. This may seem daunting at first glance, but we can narrow this down quickly. Let's start with one item for now. I'll pick the wood. They are at 4. I'll drop 1 on the floor and make it a stack of 3. And then 1 on the floor again to make it a stack of 2, and then 1 more on the floor until I have just a stack of 1. Scanning for a new decreased value each time. And then I will pick them all up and scan for 4 again. I am given 3 possible addresses that appear to all have the correct value. Let's edit them each with a different value by adding them to the address list. I'll give each a unique number, and it turns out the second address is the correct one. Next, we'll want to find out what's accessing this address we just found. We can do this with the right-click menu or with F5. This will attach the debugger and enable us to see what instructions access this specific address. It appears we only have 1 address. This is not always the case though. Be ready for more instructions to appear in future scans. Let's access this by showing it in the disassembler, right-clicking the address and confirming what accesses this address. It appears we have the value we are looking for, but there's a bit more to this than it appears. You'll notice when I drag the items to another slot, it populates the search result with another value and sets the previous one to 0. This is because we changed slots. This code accesses every slot in the inventory, which you can see changing as I move the items around. With this line of code, we can now save it to our code list for easier and quicker access later. This is perfect for when the game reboots and we need to find this specific code line again. You'll notice after I close the disassembler and double-click the saved line, it opens it back up at that location. It's time to assemble the code now. This will help keep it from resetting after we restart the game and give us the ability to turn it on and off as we need. We'll assemble with Ctrl A and select AOB injection with Ctrl Shift A. We can give it a name to customize it or just leave it as default. Once we have our injection script open, we will see we have an enable section with everything below it being what is enabled and a disable section with everything below it being what is disabled. We'll primarily be working in the enable section of the code for this example and more specifically in the new mem section. The new mem section is where we will add all the new code we want to execute. Below it is the original code section where we see MOV, RBX, 104, and ESI. The destination for the data, which is RBX plus 104, with 104 being the offset it's directed to, is taking the data from ESI, the source. There are a few ways we can tell the source to add data into the destination, but for now, we'll keep it as simple as possible while getting the results we need. We'll take the source, ESI, and add an amount to it that we want to carry over to our inventory slot. For this example, all we need to do is simply make an add line. There are other mathematical commands you can do, including subtract, multiply, and divide. We'll work with addition for this one. We'll take ESI and make it the destination, then take an integer and make it the source. This integer will add itself to the destination, then carry down the line of code to be put into RBX and offset 104. Don't hit execute, as we won't be able to undo it without restarting the game. Instead, at the top, we will click File and Add to Current Cheat Table. This will throw an error if there's incorrect code as well. Let's just double check it's all there. Yep, all good. With this enabled, by checking the box, back in game we can see if it worked. We'll split a stack from our inventory and see if it duplicated the items. There we have it, a duplication script. Give this a name and we're all set to save this as our first cheat. Next we have the health values. This one can be a bit tricky depending on the game you play, and this one is a great example of that. We'll start with the obvious search and go with the 4-byte value set to 500. We'll decrease our value and continue searching for the value with the decreased and increased value search options. With this first set of scans, we will notice that there are no values that match the health displayed in game. This is because their health values in Palworld are multiplied by 100,000. This means we need to search for values up to 500,000 by default. We'll adjust the scan search parameters to search for a value between another. After taking damage and searching for the decreased and increased values, I've narrowed it down to 432k. This looks like the value we're going for. I'll add it to the list and edit it to check it works. Over max health, that's the address. Time to see what accesses it now. There are 5 results, one which appears to be on the tick, very likely not it, and 3 that appear every second, which is more likely to be it, and 1 that appears sometimes. We'll check these 3 in the middle. At first glance, I can tell you that it has to be one of the bottom 2 choices. We'll open the one at the bottom of those 3 and check it out. It appears that we have the correct address. I'll double check the values are the same and adjustable. Looks groovy so far. We'll add this to the code list for quick access later and proceed to edit it. Edit with Ctrl-A, and we're going to inject with the AOB script using Ctrl-Shift-A. This one appears to be a very quick and easy assemble to do. We'll take this move instruction and paste it into the new mem section. Instead of adding anything to the health value, we will simply just tell the health value to go higher than the value of our health, forcing it to always be maxed. To do this, we will remove RAX from the equation and tell RDI at offset 2E8 to have an integer value of, let's say, 100 million or something really high. Remember to save the script to the cheat table, and we're ready to test it out. Once enabled, it immediately put my health to max. I should be able to jump and take no damage now. We've got God mode down. Remember, you can access the health and inventory code anytime in the advanced options where we've been saving the usable code lines. Now that we know how to edit the basic values of the game, we can start searching for stat values and editing those. Thanks for watching this video on game hacking. We'll see you in the next one.